Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, I will now continue the unfinished story, Chapter 17, The Gathering. Chapter 17, The Gathering. Ever since the day he killed someone, Garen had been waiting for the other person's next move. He remained near the proximity of his home and mindlessly wandered around the school. After he had become completely familiar with the surrounding area, he increased his vigilance. He didn't know when that pair of crimson eyes would appear once again. After all, no master would let the murder of their men be without consequence. Ding! The crisp chime signaling the end of class shook Garen out of his daydreaming. He sat at his desk, stretching his neck, and looked around. Most of his classmates sat in place and stretched, some of them walked around the room, and some began to yell at people to purchase items. The entire class had become raucous immediately after class. Are you going to the competition, Garen? With a brown blazer, Kalidor sat in front of Garen's seat. He pushed a slim boy to the side. Sorry, let me squeeze in a little bit. The youth mumbled a bit, but didn't say much. Garen looked at him, speechless. It's the archery and sword art competition, right? I don't have any plans to compete right now, but my sister will be part of the archery contest. I will be there to cheer her on. Where did Fane and Jack go? I don't know. Those two were acting pretty suspicious right after class. Who knows where they went? Kalidor shrugged. Because of his peculiar taste in fashion and carelessness in appearance, not a lot of people enjoyed his company. In a similar vein, due to Garen's low income, family background and cold personality, only someone as bold as Kalidor got along with Garen. Therefore, the two had a closer relationship compared to Fane and Jack. Including Faye, they were a five-man gang. The closeness in their relationships, however, differed. I will only be there for the archery competition. Garen didn't give it too much thought. He felt quite distant from the contest at school, because of how dull it usually was. Maybe it was because he had already fought someone to the death, but to him, the competitions were as boring as it could get. Kalidor pouted as he displayed an expression that said, I knew you were going to say that. Since you have time right now, I need you to help me with something. He looked around and dragged the studying Faye look to the side. What are you doing? I'm studying. You'll know once we get there. The three gathered together and Kalidor began explaining the situation. Because a friend of his was back in town, he wanted to bring the two of them to their reunion. Garen and Faye were his close friends at school, so he wanted them to be there. Since Fane and Jack's girlfriends needed to be at Xiao's competition, they could not attend due to the conflict in their schedules. All my best friends are attending the gathering. My big brother, whom I respect the most, is hosting it. You guys have to come this time. Just treat it as a favor for me. Why do you need us to be there at the gathering? Faye was puzzled. My family found me a girl that I am supposed to get engaged to. I want you guys to give me some opinions at this gathering. Kalidor said in a shy tone. Engaged? Faye and Garen were as shocked at the news. How old are you, to be getting engaged now? Garen had a peculiar expression. 16 years old, is there a rule that says I can't be engaged at 16? Kalidor asked defiantly. Garen paused for a moment. He wanted to ask old man Gregor to see the book again. But the old man had become increasingly stubborn for some reason, so his answer was always no. The dojo was about to pay out its student allowance, as well as host an internal competition to finalize the standings. He also needed to keep his guard up against the man with the bloody eyes. After all, he did kill someone of theirs. The good thing is that there's no news related to the murder that day yet. After the police took care of the crime scene, the detective couldn't find anything useful. The technology is too behind in this world. If it happened on Earth, they could easily use surveillance to identify me as a prime suspect. Garen was glad that chaos filled this barely industrial world. Even on Earth, there are still plenty of people who committed murder, but still remained free. Without the assistance of technology, who knows how many truths are still hidden in the darkness? No wonder a detective like Dale Quicksilver can have such a renowned reputation. Here, he was not afraid that they would find his family. It was dark that day, so it was hard to recognize his face. Nobody knew that he went to the dojo through that desolated street either. Without a name as their lead, it would be impossible to identify someone in Huaishan City. Out of the tens of thousands of people that lived there, it would be as difficult as searching for a needle in the vast sea. There was no way they could trace any of this back to his family. After giving it a thought, he felt it was necessary to relax for a bit. A gathering of his friends would be an excellent choice. If he continued to suppress himself, he would go insane before the enemy even showed up. The competition starts in a couple of days. Let me be clear, I only have time for the archery competition. It's only for a few days, don't worry, we won't miss your sister's competition. Calidor gave Garen an I understand look. I don't have any problems, let me know when we leave. Ali Fei concurred without hesitation. Okay, Ali Fei, can I borrow your physics homework? Why don't you ask Garen? His handwriting is horrendous. Go screw yourself. Your writing is uglier than mine, yet you don't see me complaining. Not only Calidor, Garen himself also regularly copied homework off of Ali Fei. He didn't know every subject, especially in foreign languages. They were learning the renowned ancient Mingdian language. The language was incredibly difficult to pronounce with its tongue-twisting syllables. The abrupt tone combined with the peculiar sound made it impossible to memorize. After attempting multiple times, yet still only managing to achieve a score of 30 on his tests, he ultimately gave up on the language altogether. She was the only girl in the gang of 5, and was also gorgeous to boot. Ali Fei was the catalyst and core to their desire to study. She could solve any problem they had. Asterisk 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 asterisk. 3 days later, in nightfall, Garen and Ali Fei followed Calidor to a hotel in the downtown of Huaishan City. We are here, Calidor said as he led the way. Behind him, Garen was in a black shirt, and Ali Fei was dressed up in a light pink dress. Above the hotel, a sign named Milas Night Star hung in the night sky. Below the name hung 10 incandescent light bulbs. Light bulbs were not too common in this world due to the rarity of thin wiring and cost. Only the wealthy families could afford them. A continuous wave of cars stopped in front of the luxurious rectangular door, as they dropped customers off. My brother is a great guy. I'll introduce you guys once he is here. Calidor looked excited. He created a business by himself in the Eastern Sea province. Look how happy you are. It sounds like you're going to meet your beloved. Garen responded as he followed. Ali Fei giggled beside him. Can you say something nice for once in your life? A waiter greeted them as they walked through the door. After politely asking for their names, he led them to a grand hall on the second floor. As they approached the hall, Calidor waved at the teenagers in the hall. He looked quite popular amongst them. Why don't you go and say hi? We'll make ourselves comfortable here. Aifei saw that Calidor was struggling to keep up with all the conversations and understandingly offered. Okay, I'll be back in a moment. There are drinks on the table, make yourself comfortable. Before he finished his sentence, Calidor was dragged away by a short-haired man. Garin shrugged. He started to think as he watched the group of people inside the hall. As soon as Calidor entered the room, he became the center of attention. His background was not as simple as he had claimed before. Let's walk around. It looks great in here. A graceful man was standing at the corner. His flawless skin and athletic figure almost resembled a woman's. The fit white suit made him appear extremely delicate and elegant. He casually chatted with the people surrounding him. Calidor, we haven't seen each other for a while. Why are you not saying hi? Who was the person that consistently yelled brother? Brother behind me. The man saw the three of them approach and gave Calidor a light punch. His friends around him also giggled along. Brother Weimar, I am here. I came as soon as I saw your telegram. I didn't dare stop for even a second, Calidor said with a sour face. Okay, stop acting. I know you too well for your tricks to work. Let me introduce you. Weimar said to the group of friends around him. Noble Stallone's only child, Calidor. The rest are old friends, but let us introduce ourselves to the two new friends here today. He pointed at the blonde boy and the girl with yellow pupils. William, his father, General William, is extremely close with Uncle Stallone. She's Jessie, the Kaifei International Hotel chain is owned by her family. When he introduced Jessie, he winked at Calidor. Calidor immediately knew that she was the girl that his family found. Since you guys are Brother Weimar's friend, you guys are my friends as well. If you guys ever need anything in Huaishan, don't hesitate to find me. With a forthright statement, Calidor pumped his chest. William nodded without saying a word. Then I'll have to count on you here. Jessie smiled at him as she returned a wink. No problem. Why don't you introduce your friends to us? Jessie looked at Garin and Aifei in the not far off distance. They are all my friends from school. The person with purple hair is called. That's okay, let's grab something to eat. I'll have to meet some other friends. You guys keep chatting. Weimar interrupted him. Then, with a smile, he walked into the crowd with a blue-colored martini. Chapter 18, The Gathering 2. Chapter 18, The Gathering 2. Calidor was stunned. He wanted to continue introducing his friends, but Jessie brought up a new topic to stop him right away. It was quite obvious that none of them cared about Garin and Aifei's names. They could tell that they were not in the same league as the others just by looking at the way they dressed. Weimar walked up to the stage in the center of the hall and announced the beginning of the feast. He told everybody to enjoy the banquet. All the youngsters raised their glasses of wine or juice and laughed. After some emotional speeches, Weimar got down from the stage and returned to Calidor's side. The band took his place. By the way, Wei Sijia just left Kinstria. Her flight passed Huaishan City, so she decided to take a rest here. I invited her today, she'll drive over later. I guess she must be on the way now. Let's finish eating and then go get her. Weimar drank some of the blood wine in the glass. So soon? Calidor frowned. I have friends here. What does it matter? I'll go explain to your friends and let them go home by themselves. It has been too long since our last gathering. It is such a rare opportunity this time. How about we take them with us? They are all my friends, and we can introduce them to the others, Calidor hesitantly said. Weimar showed an indifferent smile on his face. Calidor, I hope that tonight it will be just a night of old friends. I don't think it is a good idea to bring others involved. He saw Calidor hesitating, so he continued, I thought you liked Wei Sijia the most. Now that she finally got a chance to come, you don't even want to welcome her in person. We only have 4 cars, and we don't have seats for them if you don't come. Come on, don't screw it up. If you feel that it's too difficult to talk to your friends, I will do it. Calidor was quiet. He suddenly regretted that he had invited Garin and Ai Fei to the party. He didn't know that his brother Weimar, whom he had always been respecting, would become so unreasonable. Suddenly, the great image about brother Weimar in his heart started to become dim. But no matter what, they were still friends who grew up together. Let's see what happens next, he answered in a low and hesitant voice. Weimar frowned as the smile on his face gradually disappeared. He tapped on Calidor's shoulder and said, just think about it. Garin and Ai Fei had been hanging around the food table and eating since they got in the hall. They knew nobody except Calidor in the party. Aside from them, there were also other new arrivals. They were about 17 and 18 years old, and always got a warm welcome from their friends in the party. They were the only 2 who didn't know anyone else. They just watched as people talked and laughed in their own small groups, causing them to feel out of place. Let's just eat since we can't feel at ease. Calidor's surrounded right now anyway. We can't let him leave all of his friends to just accompany us, can we? Garin talked to Ai Fei in a low voice, then picked a plate and walked away to get more food. Ai Fei truly felt uncomfortable just standing there. She listlessly walked to the food table and learned to pick up a plate like the others did. Cautiously, she used a spoon to drink the soup in her bowl. Except Ai Fei and Garin, everybody was either rich or powerful. All those people in this shiny and luxurious banquet hall were so dazzling. Compared to them, the $200 dress and the $100 boots on her were very conspicuous and out of place. She had seen most of the food on the table before at the supermarket. They were very expensive, and any dish cost much more than all the clothes on her. Ha! A laugh sounded beside her. Dear sister, that soup is not for drinking. It is for rinsing the mouth. A young girl couldn't help laughing. A blush appeared on Ai Fei's face as she almost choked. She put down the plate and took a napkin to wipe her mouth. I recognized it wrong. Even her neck turned red, she kept her head low and didn't dare to look up at the girl. That is such an obvious pot of soup. You do know what a rinsing soup is, don't you? That girl laughed again. Another young girl walked over and whispered to her, and then they both laughed while covering their mouths. Ai Fei just stood there with her head low, her face and neck red, feeling as if she was burning up. She didn't know whether she should leave or stay, wishing she could just bury herself into the ground. What does it matter? Is the rinsing soup so poisonous we can't even drink it? Garin walked over and spoke with a frown. He was also wearing $100 clothes, but he didn't feel restrained at all. In his eyes, those young guys and girls were all some little chickens he could easily defeat. After murdering someone, he now had a different attitude towards ordinary people. Especially when he thought of the fact that the price of a life in this world was so low, he settled down a bit. To him, the only thing that mattered was strength. It's just some rinsing soup. I like it too. What's so funny? Garen filled a bowl and drank the entire thing in one big gulp. The rinsing soup tasted a bit sweet with a minty flavor, and was not that bad for a drink. It's fine, it's fine. When the girl saw that Garen was so at ease about it, she felt that it would be embarrassing for her to continue making a big deal. She looked at Garen and Ai Fei with a strange expression before saying, "Please go on." The two young girls slowly walked away. They couldn't help laughing again, as they walked further away. Garen frowned. Once he saw the girls were gone, he looked at Ai Fei. "All right, ignore what other people think. Do whatever you want to." Ai Fei nodded in silence. "Should we go to Calidor and tell him we feel like leaving? It's a decent place, but the people in it are not," Garen casually spoke as he shrugged his shoulders. He looked at Ai Fei, and the latter, still red-faced, meekly nodded. She was so embarrassed that she didn't even look up. Speechless, Garen turned around and walked to Calidor. Calidor was talking to a girl with a pair of bright eyes. They were just idly chatting. Most of the time, the girl would be the one to bring up a topic, and Calidor would just perfunctorily answer her. When he saw Garen walking over, he knew that he was finally about to be saved. "I may need a word with my friend over there. I think he needs to talk to me." "Excuse me." He finally had an excuse to get away, so he said so and walked to Garen. "Hugh." Calidor took a long breath out as he approached Garen. "See? That beautiful girl with long dark golden hair is the one I am engaged to. What do you think? Not bad. Isn't she good?" Garen confusedly said. "She is too good. I feel useless when compared to her." Calidor looked frustrated. "All right, I am just here to say that Ai Fei and I are going to head out. You should just spend more time with your friends. I was thinking about introducing you to." Calidor didn't finish. He turned silent for a moment and then said, "Well then. I will see you off." "No need, we are good. I'll walk Ai Fei back first. Anyway, I go for a run every night, and I'm used to it." "But in reality, you shouldn't have invited Ai Fei and me tonight, right?" Garen said as his voice turned less and less audible. Calidor's expression gradually turned dull. "I am fine, but you know Ai Fei's family, they are even worse off than mine. She was recruited as a special excellence student and being here definitely made her nervous. Just now, she even drank the rinsing soup. She's a girl you know." "It's my fault," Calidor spoke in a low voice. "I thought it was just a few people talking freely. I thought it would be simple, but I didn't expect it to be so big. You shouldn't blame yourself, you're just too kind. All right, we are off. Enjoy your time." Garen patted his shoulder and ended the conversation. Calidor opened his mouth as if about to say something, but couldn't manage in the end. He could only watch as Garen returned to Ai Fei's side before leaving with her through the back door in the small hall. Aside from Calidor, no one else paid them any attention. Garen and Ai Fei left the hotel. They walked along the roads of suburbs. Beside them were cars running past. After that humiliation, Ai Fei looked like another person. Along the way, she didn't utter a single word. "It is fine. Don't think too much about others' views. After today, they will never show up in our sights again, and we will eventually forget each other." Garen was comforting her. "And don't blame Calidor. He is just a fool. He didn't think about such a situation." "I don't blame him." Ai Fei tied at her ponytail. "It was my fault for being ignorant. Why should I blame others? Don't think too much about it." Garin tapped on her shoulder. You are still who you are, same as who you were. Don't let such a tiny thing affect your happiness. The truth was, he had accidentally discovered Ai Fei's secret when he was hanging around in the city earlier. The stubborn girl had a mother who was seriously sick at home, and her younger sister and brother were depending on her too. Her father left home because of his gambling debt. She had to gradually pay it on her own. Luckily, she won the scholarship every year as a special gifted student in the Shenying Nobles Academy. She could use that money on her family, and she also worked after school to make more. All the money she earned was only barely enough to pay the tuition fees of her brother and sister and the medical fees of her mother. The girl had been working so hard. For other students, it might be boring to study in school, but for her, it was a God-given time of relaxation. All right, don't be depressed. Garin was just about to talk when he caught a familiar outline of a figure in his peripheral vision, making him quickly avert his eyes. Come on. I need to go home after I send you back. Don't worry, I can go home by myself. You don't have to come with me. Ai Fei shook her head. Subconsciously, she looked at Garin with suspicion in her eyes. You can go, I'm fine. Garin knew that she didn't want people to know the real situation of her family. He had things to do now anyway, so he nodded. Okay then. You take care of yourself and just go straight home. Don't hang around outside too long. It may not be safe. Ai Fei quietly nodded. She took a left turn at the corner of the road. Garin stood behind her watching her off. When he saw her disappear in that corner, he tied at his collar and walked to a dark alley on the street. After a while, he disappeared into the shadows. Chapter 19, Exclusion 1. Chapter 19, Exclusion 1. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation. Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. After being followed by Garin through the alley for a while, the black shadow in front suddenly turned left and ducked out of the alley. Garin avoided a puddle and continued his pursuit with light, careful footsteps. No matter what, he had to figure out the background of the person he killed the other day, whether they would be able to trace his identity or not. At this point, it wasn't just about attribute points but, more importantly, about the safety of his family and himself. He turned into a dirty alley even narrower than the last one. The sound of a man arguing with a woman could be heard from the apartments above. The whole alley was filled with the stench of rotting food and waste. The person in front was kneeling beside a garbage bin, with his hand inside it, digging for something. There were two homeless people sleeping soundly on either side of him. Garin quietly stood at the corner of the alley and peered into it, borrowing the faint light radiating down from the block above. After a while, the person rummaged through the bin and dug out a black leather purse. He stuck his hand inside the purse, felt around a little and pulled out a small bronze key. After pocketing the key, he quickly looked around and continued to move forward. Garin retracted his head and hid behind the corner wall when the person turned. He slowly stuck his head out again after waiting for the sound of the footsteps to fade away. Without warning, the moment he stuck his head out, Garin felt a stabbing pain in his waist. He reflexively swung his right elbow backward. Bang! Someone let out a muffled groan. The elbow strike had left them staggering. The person tried to turn around and escape, but only managed a few steps before stumbling onto the ground. They struggled a few times to get up but failed. Garin's heart was thumping, but it was already his second real fight. Coupled with the changes in his mentality previously, this time was completely different from the first. He wasn't as panicked compared to before. He suppressed his nerves and took a few deep breaths. He examined his waist where he was stabbed. There was a tear in his clothes, apparently caused by a small dagger-like weapon, but his skin was uninjured. If it wasn't for me learning explosive fist arts for self-defense, which solidified my body to an extent comparable to the body hardening technique, that stab would have killed me. Garin looked at the tear. It was right at where his kidney was. A shiver ran down his spine. Garin walked up to the man on the ground. The man held a black dagger in his right hand. His clothes were dirty, as if they hadn't been washed in a long time. He looked like an ordinary homeless person. You won't be able to live for long now. Master James will avenge me. The man let out a low sinister laugh and glared at Garin with his beady green eyes. A trace of blood spilled out from the corner of his mouth, his head bent askew, and he was dead. There was a hint of black in the blood that spilled from his mouth, poison. The man had committed suicide before Garin could manage to even ask about the situation. Garin crouched to check his pulse and breathing. He was indeed dead. Garin felt like he had been dragged into a war between two forces. The man had mistaken him for a member of the opposing force, and committed suicide without a second thought, just to prevent himself from leaking any information. The harshness and cruelty of this warrior, so ready to die, made Garin shudder. He probably wasn't sent to specifically tail me. The person in front must have come to retrieve something, and this guy here was probably sent to kill me after he realized that I was following that person. He could also be a spy from the other organization. Seems highly unlikely that I've been exposed. Garin breathed a sigh of relief after analyzing the general situation. It was clear that his accidental killing had been mistaken for a deliberate act committed by the opposing side. No wonder when I stopped the car the man so decisively ordered for me to be killed. I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. The more Garin thought about the situation, the more he realized that these were the facts. He looked around him. There was no movement. The snoring of the homeless men and the arguing voices from the block above could still constantly be heard, with some feral cats in heat making mating call sounds from time to time. Garin bent over to examine the assassin and found a gold coin with black and gold stripes in the inner pocket of his coat. Without taking a second look at it, he shoved the gold coin in his pocket and left the same way he came. He crept out of the alley when the crowd thinned. He acted as if nothing had happened and went around the city center in circles. It wasn't until the bell tower in the city chimed the end of the hour that he jogged home in a hurry. Creak. Bang. Garin shut the front door, changed into slippers and went into the living room. The oil lamp in the living room was lit. His father, Eisen Lombard, was reading the newspaper on the sofa with his legs crossed into a figure 4. He was wearing black pajamas, and there was a slight twitch in his brows. Eisen was a plump middle-aged man with messy indigo hair and a full white beard. He looked like a passionate football coach. When he saw that Garin was back, he lifted his plump face and gave him a little nod, but didn't say a word. "Where's Mom?" Garin tried to act naturally, as he removed his jacket and hung it on the coat rack by the door. "Since it's a holiday, she's gone to the block across the street for coffee at Madame Cadney's," Eisen answered casually. "You only came back after the bell chimed. Don't stay out for too long next time, it gets dangerous outside when it's late. There have been a few murders in the city recently. They've all happened in places where there were very few people about. Do take care to avoid such places." "Yeah, I know. I heard some of my schoolmates mentioning it." Garin nodded. "Especially you, always running around in places with very few people." "Okay. Be careful when you're walking around. Your sister has just gone to bed. She has preparatory practice for the tournament tomorrow. Eisen put down the paper, finished his coffee and said, "Since you're back, I'm going off to bed too. Don't wait up for Mom, she'll probably be out late." "All right." Garen rested on the sofa for a bit, drank a glass of water, and watched his father close the bedroom door behind him. He waited for a while longer until he heard the lights go off inside the room. He then got up, washed up, switched off the living room lights, and went into his own room. He sat by his desk and switched on the desk lamp. Then, he carefully took out the dark gold coin from his pocket and examined it under the light. The gold coin was the size of a walnut, and was as thick as a normal coin. Engraved on the face of it was a double-mast galleon in full sail against the wind. Above the galleon was a snake with its mouth open, ready to bite. On the bottom of the coin was a number, 1521. On its flip side was a knight's suit of armor. A sword ran through the armor from within, angled upwards, and a helmet hung from the tip. A garland encircled the whole armor. Garen rubbed on the coin repeatedly. He could make out a dark golden color beneath the black paint from a few spots on the flip side of the gold coin. As he pressed a finger to the dark gold spots, and the potential on the bottom of his vision jolted from 179% to 180. And then it stopped moving. "That's it." Garen silently put down the gold coin. Ever since he'd accrued a few attribute points at the old man's place, he hadn't used any of them, but instead saved them for the time being. He originally intended to add them to the White Cloud secret method, but later considered that it would probably be better to add them to the explosive fist arts. After all, that was the technique that would give the best results in a short amount of time. On top of that, he hadn't been successful in getting anything out of the book ever since he borrowed it from the old man, which made him even more reluctant to use the rare attribute points on anything. "I thought I could find something substantial on him. For a member of an organization that's stolen so many antiques, all he had on him was a gold coin. Should I deem him a side character in the grand scheme of things?" He shook his head, then hid the gold coin in the desk drawer. "Since this is a misunderstanding, it should end here. I can't keep getting dragged into it." Recalling how he was stabbed without warning earlier, he broke into a cold sweat. "If I hadn't trained in explosive fist arts which hardened my skin, that stab could have killed me. Fortunately, he was weak. If it were someone stronger, and with some poison on the knife." When he thought of this, a shiver ran down his spine. "I'll just stay focused on going to school and practicing martial arts. This business is too dangerous. It's better if I just leave it to professional detectives like Dale Quicksilver." He made up his mind not to meddle in this matter anymore. The Bronze Cross emblem was valuable, but there was a new source of potential from the old man. Thus, even though he could no longer get any more regular absorption from it, Garen's desire to get the emblem back gradually faded. "I'll use the last bit of potential on the White Cloud secret method. The sooner I add to it, the faster my strength and physicality can begin to increase." He pondered for a second, and finally cast his line of sight onto the White Cloud secret method in the skills pane. Slowly, the stream of chi from his brain flowed out and entered one of the items under the White Cloud secret method. The words gave a shake and gradually blurred, upgrading from intermediate to advanced. Snap! A crisp sound rang through his brain. The advanced instantly blurred and reverted to intermediate. A current flooded back into Garen's brain. "What's going on?" He frowned and carefully reviewed the skills pane. A new symbol had emerged after White Cloud secret method. Even though he didn't know how to pronounce it, Garen strangely understood its meaning. information incomplete. It seems that the teachings of the secret method were incomplete. The key to the advanced secret method should be in the hands of the dojo masters and key disciples. Garin deduced the truth of the matter. He thought about it, then focused his sight on explosive fist arts. Similarly, after the attribute points were added to it, the words blurred. Then reverted to elementary. There was a new symbol after it, the meaning of which Garin again immediately understood. Does the intermediate level of explosive fist arts require external drug stimulation as a simultaneous therapy? Otherwise, it would harm the body and mind. He was well aware that, to have been initiated in explosive fist arts without any assistance, was extremely fortuitous. It would be the same for the White Cloud secret method. The dojo would naturally want to maintain certain core elements within their control. It's not likely that they would give it all away in one go, otherwise they wouldn't be so established. So it seems that, to enhance my martial art powers, I have to elevate my status within the dojo. Ever since he transmigrated here, almost all of his time had been spent on his fascination with martial arts. Something that he could only dream of on Earth, he could actually be exposed to here. This had always made Garin excited. And now that he understood the importance of martial arts and the security it provided, his pursuit of it had become more fanatical. Although he was encountering some problems, he wasn't too concerned. As long as he could participate in the dojo's internal qualifying tournament, he could attain a good ranking and gain the attention of the high-level core figures. Since I can't add to skills, I'll just add to my basic potentials. He shifted his sight and lingered on the basic potential pain. Strength, 0.53. Agility, 0.23. Physicality, 0.33. Intelligence, 0.36. I've added to vitality, strength and intelligence before. I should just add to agility this time, and check out what effect that has. Garin held A might as well add to it attitude toward attribute points. Compared to his ordinary peers, he would have a better starting point no matter which items he added his attribute points to. After all, he had an ordinary body enhanced by attribute points. On top of that, the stabilizing effect of potentials meant that once he reached a certain level of a potential, even if he didn't really train much, the body could still maintain the potential at its peak and wouldn't regress. If he didn't practice martial arts to build up his physicality. Under such favorable circumstances, even he felt that it would be a sinful waste. Chapter 20, Exclusion 2. Chapter 20, Exclusion 2. The physical test results are out. The results detail resilience, resistance and physical tenacity. Strength decides explosive power. Physical strength, and body shape. When intelligence goes up, it becomes much easier to learn. Now, all that's left is agility. He focused on the agility icon. Soon, it jumped to 0.33 from 0.23. Within the instant during which the number changed, Garin felt his body turn lighter. His sight turned dim, and his brain was blank as if many things had been moved out of his body. He felt like he had taken off a heavy iron suit. His body became incredibly light, and he felt like he could jump onto the roof with just a single stomp on the floor. From what I have concluded, the different attributes of ordinary people should only be around 0.3. Originally, my speed was lower than the others, and that's why I ran very slowly. These numbers are hard to measure though. It would have been better if all these numbers could be converted with a normal human's abilities as one instead. As soon as this thought crossed his mind, the numbers in his sight began to gradually change. After more than 10 seconds, the numbers had completely changed. Strength, 1.77, agility, 1.10, vitality, 1.03, intelligence, 1.20, potential, 80%. So the display will change according to the desires I have in my mind. I guess my strength should be over 1.5 times the strength of ordinary people. No wonder I could break a thick glass plane and pass the 200-pound sandbag challenge so easily. He turned off the light and opened the window for some fresh air, after which he took off his clothes and lay on his bed. With his entire body filled with the feeling of lightness, he eventually stopped thinking, and very soon, he fell asleep. He didn't know how much time had passed since he fell asleep. When he woke up and opened his eyes, he suddenly heard the door of his room being opened. A short figure slid in and stood beside the door, quietly looking at him. It was Ying-er. She was wearing the school uniform, which had a short skirt. On her slim waist was a silver zipper. The skirt was only enough to cover her thighs, and her black pantyhose was obvious. Brother, in fact. Garen drowsily got up. Ying-er. What are you doing here so late? He looked at his sister on the bedside. Under the moonlight, he felt that his sister seemed to be more beautiful and purer. When she unconsciously grabbed her short skirt with her head low, all he could see was the pink on her face. Brother. You don't get close to other girls. Can you do that? Yinger's voice was as small as an ant. Are you talking about Ai Fei? We're just friends. Garen thought about the night when he walked Ai Fei back. With the suspicion in Ai Fei's eyes while she looked at him, he knew what she meant. It looked like Ai Fei suspected that Garen liked her, and that was why he always protected her. Because of that, she didn't allow him to send her home. It wasn't simply not letting others know her home address, it was also turning down his pursuit. I've just been turned down. Now, my sister is expressing her love to me. Ying-er. Only you are so naive to think that your brother is the best. You think all girls will like me, like I will be snatched away from you at any second. Well, not every girl thinks so. Garen felt bitter in his heart. So is it that woman who keeps on pestering you? Annoying. Ying-er curled her hand into a fist. As long as you promise me you will never talk to that Ai Fei anymore, I will. I will stop beating you up. Garen twitched his mouth and didn't say anything. He felt the words "stop beating you up" were so weird when they came out of his sister's mouth. Ying-er didn't get any response. She lowered her head a little bit more, thinking that Garen was refusing. As long as you promise. Then I will. I can. I will let you. She stepped ahead, took his hand, and slowly pulled it beneath her skirt. Garen was frozen in place. From his right hand, he felt a warm and moist feeling that engulfed his entire body. His blood began to boil. And, with his body's rising temperature, a thirst overwhelmed him. His private part was as hard as an iron stick, causing him to feel a bit of pain. Finally, he couldn't hold it. Ying-er. He finally couldn't help it anymore. He suddenly sat up and grabbed his sister's waist with his other hand. Bang! Ouch! Garen opened his eyes. Which ceiling is this? He looked confused. He reached out his left hand and found his fingernails were bloody. No. It should be a familiar ceiling, the new me is just still not used to it yet. So it was a dream. I was wondering how Ying-er's personality changed so much. She actually came to me late after midnight. He looked at the ceiling, a red background with black lattices. He felt so lazy that he didn't want to move, and he was also a bit disappointed. While the cold wind blew into the room through the windows, his bed felt warm and cozy. Inside and outside were two seemingly different worlds. I guess I have been infected by this world. In this world, relatives further than 3 generations could be married. Let alone Ying, my sister, who is not actually my real sister. It is quite normal that I imagine something about her. He slowly took away the quilt and looked at the nightstand. On the edge of the table was a scratch. It must have been his nails that made it. He got up from the bed, grabbed his clothes, and put them on. He added a cotton underclothes under his shirt. It appeared a formal suit of long pants and black coat. Mom, there is a hole in my clothes. What should I do? There came his sister's voice from the living room. Take it to Mark the tailor. Your brother's clothes were ripped yesterday. Get them done together. The voice of his mother, Vanya, sounded. Nia, hurry. We have to go. The company car is about to arrive, his father urged. Where is my tie? My red one. In the closet. It isn't there. Then use the black one. Fine, so be it. Move faster. Ying, please come and help me with the zipper on my back. It's jammed. Okay, mother. Garen opened the bedroom door and stood beside it. In the living room, his father, Eisen, was busy with his tie, and his mother was putting on a long dress with his sister's help. Are you up, Garen? Our breakfast is bread, milk and an egg for each of us. If it's not warm enough, put it into the oven for a few seconds. We are leaving now, we are going to be late. His mother zipped the dress and tidied it up. She rushed out through the door with her bag in hand. Hurry and eat, then go to school. I'm off. Eisen left too. Bang. The door was closed. His sister took a breath out and turned around to look at Garen. Hurry up and go wash yourself. We've got a bus to catch after breakfast. It is almost 7. Okay. Garen walked to the washroom. He twisted the faucet and splashed some cold water on his face. The water made his skin tense up. He didn't feel sleepy at all anymore. Today is the day of my competition. Promise me that you will come and see me, Yinga shouted from outside the washroom as she dressed up. If you dare go watch the girls' swimming game like you did last time, I'll make you beg for mercy. She raised her fist and shook it. All right, all right. Garen helplessly shook his head. He had been living for dozens of years, so how would he be controlled by the emotions of a young boy? The dream must have been a reflection of a memory from his past. It must be. Facing the mirror, he tried to convince himself. In that mirror, there was a young man who had dark purple hair and red eyes. His skin was pale and exquisite. There was nothing like a pimple on him. He was also emitting a natural sense of confidence and vigor. Come on, stop it. Let me use it. Yinga brushed up close to him from his right. She moved her head so that both she and Garen could use the mirror at the same time. She cautiously tidied her hair before looking at Garen's face. All of a sudden, a blush appeared on her face. That face in the old days was a lot safer. She murmured. What did you say? Garen didn't hear what she said. Nothing, hurry up. It was still the same life, catching a bus, attending a class, and eating. There would be a competition in the afternoon, so the classes were cut short. Garen followed the students in the school to the outdoor shooting field. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Students from different classes gathered together and formed groups one after another. Some of them even raised their hands holding wooden sticks with banners saying XXX go for it. Some of them actually started yelling like a cheer squad. The shooting field had 2 parts, the arrow targets and the shooting fence. The participants needed to shoot from the fence while aiming at the target on the other side. Their scores depended on the rings they would shoot. Garen found a place on the left to watch the competition. There were some students and teachers around. The sunlight seemed pale, and the temperature wasn't too high. Garen waited for a while. After 3 groups of people, it was finally Ying-er's turn. She was wearing a clean white shooting robe with a black pant skirt. It looked like an ancient Chinese dress with black and white colors. She was wearing a pair of yellow gloves, and, with one hand, she held a brown wooden bow which was over a meter long. She slowly walked to the other 2 players. Both of them were standing still on 3 shooting spots. They put on a brown leather chest plate, which covered half of their chest. Here comes Ying-er from Class 6 Grade 1, Ilya from Class 7 Grade 1, and David Jones from Class 8 Grade 1. Ying-er from Class 6 is an outstanding player in the department of archery. Yili Ya has won a medal in a competition in the city. David Jones has just began competing, so it must be quite a challenge for him this time. While holding a speaker, a teacher was loudly commentating. Elizabeth from Class 7 Grade 3 has shot 5 tens. A peak record like that is nearly impossible for others to break. Now, let's see whether Ying-er or the next up Suman can break the record. Standing from afar, Garen looked at his sister, and Ying-er also looked back at him. He hurriedly smiled and waved his hand. Ying-er felt calm. As the preparation sounded, she slowly raised and drew her bow. Chapter 21, Core 1. Chapter 21, Core 1. From afar, Garen could see 3 contestants, including his sister. They gently released their bowstrings. 3 lines of shadow flew out and nailed their targets. His eyesight wasn't that good, but he managed to see that the arrows of the other contestants were slightly off the mark and Ying-er's arrow was much closer to the bullseye. Cheers and boos roared from the crowd. Class 6, Ying-er's class, cheered the loudest. The competition continued into the second round, followed by the third. Garen didn't understand the rules at all. He just kept hearing the crowd cheer every time Ying-er fired an arrow. The classmates from Class 6 and all the female students were yelling Ying-er's name. It seemed that she was quite popular in school and not as subdued as when she was around their parents. The archery event took more than an hour to complete. Garen kept yawning while he watched. When the time finally came for him to take the dojo test, he bid his sister goodbye and squeezed through the crowd behind him towards the exit. Coming out of the crowd, the other parts of the academy that were used for daily teaching seemed deserted. Occasionally, students and teachers would rush past while moving equipment, apparently to prepare for some sporting event. Garen looked up at the sky. The sun was pale and its rays didn't provide any warmth. When an autumn breeze blew at him, a chill went through his body. Heading out from the slightly deserted school gate, he turned towards the street where the dojo branch was located. White Cloud Dojo had set up this branch dojo right by the street where Shengying Academy was situated. Many of the martial disciples were from the academy. Combat was regarded as a part of the comprehensive development of quality education, so the academy had no objections. He took out the key and slipped into White Cloud Dojo through the main entrance. There was a mix of young and old people in white clothing sitting in the front hall. One of them was an instructor that Garen had seen teach before, the pretty Sharmila. Garen didn't know any of the others. The seats in the front hall were usually reserved for the management personnel of the branch. Even though disciples were not specifically prohibited from sitting there, there were only those few seats when entering the front hall, so it would be unseemly for juniors to take up that space. Garen gave Sharmila a polite nod, then headed towards the courtyard through the left corridor. He didn't enter the courtyard, but continued walking left under the eaves. He came to a stop in front of a small room, with a white door, and gently knocked on the door. "Come in, it's not locked," a young man's voice answered from inside. Garin opened the door and walked in. The interior resembled an office archive room. A gentleman sat behind a desk. He whirled a pen in his hand, as if deliberating on a problem. "Yes? How can I help you? The registration deadline has passed. You'll have to wait until the next quarter if you want to register." The man didn't look up from the documents in front of him. "I'm not here to register. I'm Garin, one of the branch students chosen to be a formal disciple some time back." Garin walked over to the desk, took a chair and sat down. "I'm here to apply to be a formal dojo disciple." "Oh, that's simple. Fill out this form right here." The man handed over a form with a table of details to be filled in: name, age, family, etc. Garin took a pen and smoothly began to fill in his personal information. A faint burst of cheering could be heard coming from outside. While Garin was filling in the form, it sounded like some disciples had started a duel while the crowd looked on. Garin turned around for a look. Peering out from the open door, he could perceive a few onlookers applauding and cheering. "Those little bastards outside are betting on a fight. The losers will have to treat the others to dinner tonight. Don't let them distract you. Just fill out your form," the man said with a smile. Garin quickly filled out the form and handed it to the man. He saw the man review the details once, then pick up a seal and stamp the form. "It's done. Take this down to the Marshall Coliseum and hand it in together with the $1,000 application fee to the financial department. Then wait for further arrangements." "Okay, got it. It's just as well that I haven't received my stipend yet. I could directly credit from that." Garin stood up and left the office. He headed back under the eaves, form in hand, while looking at the crowd gathered around the courtyard. The sounds of punches and kicks kept coming from the middle of the crowd. Garin peered in through a gap. One of the combatants fighting was a boy from his dojo class, whereas Garin did not recognize the other one. There was nothing interesting about the way they fought. They were only slightly better than Garin, they should be normal students from the branch. He kept to the path and turned into the front hall. The people who sat there earlier were all gone, with only a young student sweeping inside. Without another thought, Garin walked out of the dojo and headed back toward the academy. The tournament was still in progress, but the focus had switched to a girls' swimming competition. The girls in swimsuits attracted catcalls from the crowd. Without a second look, Garin took the form and headed out from the academy. He hailed a carriage and directly headed towards the Marshall Coliseum. Asterisk 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 asterisk. 10 or so minutes later. There are 3 people applying for the formal disciple certification today. I'll remind you in advance that if your application doesn't go through, the money you paid won't be refunded. In the white courtyard, a middle-aged man with a handlebar mustache clad in black clothing was speaking loudly to the 3 youths in front of him. "Understood," shouted the 3 aloud. From left to right stood a black-haired girl, Garin, and a brawny man. All 3 of them wore white Taoist robes. "The test is very simple. Hold me off for half a minute and you pass," the mustached man calmly said. He had his hands crossed over his chest, inadvertently exposing his strong chest muscles and some black hair. Half a minute. The 3 of them were stunned. They knew that if the man was confident enough to say that, he must have something up his sleeve. "Don't worry, it's actually just to test your overall quality," the mustachioed man said casually. "Who's first?" "I'll do it." The black-haired girl was the first to step forward. Both didn't exchange any courtesies. They stood their ground, their eyes met, and they abruptly started. The mustachioed man took a forceful step forward and the ground shook slightly. He adopted a bow stance and deftly punched straight forward, not showing any of the delay that White Cloud dojo trainers usually exhibited. The girl didn't manage to dodge in time, and the punch glanced off her shoulder. When she was ready to counterattack, another punch followed, so she could only hastily evade. In huffs and puffs, one attacked and one evaded. This continued until they went in a full circle. Finally, the black-haired girl gave a loud cry and fell to the ground. The mustachioed man reverted to a resting position and stood still, not the slightest bit out of breath. About 17 seconds. He shook his head. "Thank you for your direction, senior brother." The girl clenched her teeth, got up, and gave a bow. She then stood aside, ready to see the other two take the test. It was obvious that she wanted to see others' performance after her own failure. Having acquired the secret method and explosive fist arts not too long ago, it was very clear to Garen that it should have been impossible for him to instantly apply them. Someone who was able to learn the explosive fist arts in a few weeks wasn't a genius, he was a monstrosity. For this test, he was prepared to use only the minimum amount of power to pass. Garen took a look at the brawny man whose brow was furrowed, as if realizing the difficulty of the situation. Those able to participate in the test were extremely confident students from the branch dojos. All of them had learned the explosive fist arts and White Cloud's secret method. It was unclear what level the man's White Cloud secret method was at, but his training in explosive fist arts seemed effective. His muscles and skin had a particular characteristic to them, which looked similar to what an elementary level of achievement would produce. Earlier, the girl completely lacked this characteristic and purely relied on a mishmash of techniques complemented by her reflexes. "My turn." Garen didn't want to waste any more time, so he stepped forward. The mustachioed man glanced at him and seemed slightly impressed. "You're a new disciple, who has just been taught fist arts. Not only did you not lose confidence after witnessing the previous challenger, but you still maintain a fighting spirit. Not bad, not bad." "Confidence can't be judged by appearances," Garen replied calmly after taking a deep breath. "Very well. Shall I begin?" "Please." Garen stood in place. The mustachioed man's waist sunk low, as he took a step forward and threw a quick straight punch again. Somehow, Garen instinctively knew that this punch was easy to dodge. He didn't give it another thought as he turned his body sideways to the right. The punch missed. Garen had planned to grab his opponent's shoulder to do a takedown, but he didn't expect the man's fist to recoil and spring forward like a snake to punch straight towards his shoulder. There was a whiff and Garen didn't manage to evade this time. The punch grazed his shoulder, and he felt a slight burning pain. Before he could catch his breath, another punch flew straight at him. This time it hit his right shoulder. Garen was determined to face the attack head-on, but was worried about revealing his level of explosive fist arts, so all he could do was endure and dodge awkwardly to the side. However, he had never learned any practical dodging skills and was used to facing attacks head-on. Although he was able to clumsily escape the full brunt of the punch with his dodge, he was still grazed by the side of the fist. Fortunately, his skin was tough enough. His elementary level of training in explosive fist arts had hardened the skin cuticles all over his body. The graze caused a lasting numbing pain, but he was otherwise all right. The mustachioed man sounded perplexed. His punches incorporated a certain level of the explosive fist arts so that recipients would not only feel pain, but would also be numb to the nerves. Consecutively, he had hit the boy in front of him twice, yet the boy seemed fine and was still able to continue dodging. 7 to 8 seconds had passed. This boy has potential. His physicality seems good. He has a strong constitution for someone his age. The man had an idea and wanted to test Garin. He retracted his fist and instantly threw it out again with increased speed. As he threw the punch, a faint snap came from the sleeve as it tightened at his wrist. This punch was aimed to hit Garin squarely in the right shoulder, and it was twice as fast as previous strikes so Garin wouldn't be able to dodge it even if he saw it coming. Wham! Garin fell back 3 steps, standing on the spot with his face slightly flushed. When he tried to raise his right arm, he realized it was completely paralyzed. 10 seconds. The mustachioed man went back into a resting position and stood straight, a trace of disappointment in his eyes. He had a bulky build and his footwork seemed sluggish, but when he actually fought, the explosive speed of his fists was extraordinarily quick. Next. Let's get this over with. The brawny man clenched his teeth and stepped forward. Chapter 22, Core 2. Chapter 22, Core 2. Garin walked to the side helplessly. He knew that his performance definitely did not qualify. There was a huge difference between half a minute and 10 seconds. Previously, he was confident that he would become a high-class disciple after he learned the explosive fist arts. But he didn't expect that an examiner would be this strong. He thought to himself, even if I fully unleash my power and fought without holding anything back, I still wouldn't be able to defeat him. The opponent's attacking speed was too fast, his strength was high, and the attack carried some kind of paralyzing effect. If someone was struck twice in the same location like Garin, then the result would already be determined at that point. Bam! Bam! Like Garin expected, the brawny man, who went up next, did not make it past the 30-second mark either. The man clutched his shoulder and got off of the stage. The man with the mustache was at ease, he didn't even sweat. He relaxed his fists and lightly said to the 3 people, "Okay, the test is over. Your scores are far from qualifying. You guys still need to work hard. You are now dismissed." At this point, Garin realized that the examiner didn't even use his full strength. Fighting the 3 applicants was like a walk in the park for him. Garin tried to estimate the man with the mustache's level and strength. He's probably reached the maximum adult physical strength limit just like me, but he is way faster. His explosive fist arts can't be at the elementary level, it must be at the intermediate level or above. From his status, it seems like his White Cloud secret arts is also at the intermediate level or above. He is also very, very skillful in terms of fighting techniques. After comparing himself with the mustache man, Garin felt a little bit better. The black-haired girl on the side stepped up when she saw the test was over. "Teacher, can you tell us what level of fighter you are right now?" "What level?" The man with the mustache smiled as he smoothed his wrinkled clothes. "Do you know how fighters are ranked?" he asked. The black-haired girl nodded and said, "I only know the Grandmaster of Combat rankings that the Confederation uses." "That doesn't count. That's only the ranking for fake exhibition matches," the examiner said. He became a bit excited and continued, "I will tell you guys the ranking system that we have in our circle." He pointed out 3 fingers. The first level are ordinary people who know a little fighting technique, or people who are interested in learning. This level also includes Special forces from the military, who are able to easily take care of 1 or 2 hooligans. We call this level amateur. These amateurs are probably our dojo's primary source of income, right? The brawny applicant continued where the man with the mustache left off. That's right. Because these hobbyists are excited to train, they are willing to spend money, just like how you guys got started. Also, the masters in our industry would sometimes be invited to teach at an influential or powerful amateur's home, which is how the network in the industry originated. When a master is looking for a disciple, potential and physical requirements are only part of the equation. Family background is also very important. That makes sense, Garen nodded. It's impossible for a master to teach people for free and also offer free food and accommodations. After all, masters are people too and still need money to live. I know some of it. The black-haired girl continued, our White Cloud dojo operates like this, and our dojo master is a wealthy merchant who runs a huge corporation. You are all formal disciples, and you guys might teach other people martial arts in the future. Therefore, I'll give you guys some hints. The man with mustache nodded as he said, there are 2 types of disciples you should look for. He pointed out his index finger. One is the disciple, who has a robust background with either money or influence. These type of disciples are there for the purpose of coverage and increased influence in the industry. They don't have to be strong, but they have to be beneficial for the master's brand. Then he pointed out the second finger. Next, there are the real inheriting disciples. The key traits to look for are potential and the fundamentals. They should be taught with all care, since they would need to step up in the future, when the master gets old and weak, and can't fight anymore. They need to be strong to maintain the reputation and the status of the dojo brand in the industry, so the brand doesn't become a stepping stone for other people. The selection process for heritage disciples is very rigorous. It's very different from teaching other disciples. Many heritage disciples came from bad family backgrounds, so the master needed to be there to cultivate them. This kind of master-disciple relationship would be the most solid. It would be very close to a parent-child relationship. Eventually, the strongest heritage disciple would inherit everything that the master had. The other disciples would become the backbone of the brand. Therefore, you guys have to pay attention to these criteria when you're looking for a disciple. If you want to cultivate disciples properly, you have to have money and resources. After he said that, the man with mustache fell silent for a moment and seemed like he was recalling something. Right? We were talking about the ranking for the fighters. How did we end up here? He quickly snapped out of it. He smiled and said, let's focus on the rankings. Amateurs can be considered at the bottom. One level higher would be the professionals, the professional fighters who were trained from a young age. This becomes more complicated and ranges from people who are able to fight off 3 to 5 hooligans to people who are not afraid when faced with a dozen people to a few dozen people. As long as firearms are not involved, fighters in this rank can handle it. No one knows how strong someone is in this rank unless they fight them firsthand. Most people can only estimate someone's strength by using their fame and influence. Oh, the Confederation's 5 ranks from A to E also applies here. For example, I'm considered an E rank. The letter ranks represent the degree of ability. The smaller ranks within the amateur level are ranked from 1 to 9. Letter ranks are only used when someone is at a higher rank than amateur. Above the professionals, there are the dojo masters. People rarely achieve this rank in the industry. You are not a dojo master if you simply open up a dojo. It's more complicated than that. Dojo master represents a completely different level. Are people in this rank the same people who are able to break a gigantic green boulder with one punch? The brawny man's eyes shined. He, that is the story of Dojo Master Rizal, who has the nickname of Belligerent Fist. You are roughly correct. At this level, they have reached the peak of human potential and are at an unimaginable level. Dojo Master Rizal can't block a bullet with his body, yet his defense is considered one of the best in the industry. The man with the mustache laughed. You could never reach that level, but it's because of these fascinating stories that we are motivated to train and practice our skills, is it not? My goal is to become someone like Dojo Master Rizal, and stand at the very peak. So could someone on the Dojo Master level beat 100 people alone? The black-haired girl asked another question. If the 100 people are just thugs, then Dojo Master could beat them easily one after another. Dojo Masters could probably also beat them if they all come at the same time. Top-ranked masters don't have any obvious shortcoming in terms of speed or endurance. The people with obvious shortcomings have already died in real fights. The man with mustache shook his head as he sighed. All right, you guys can go now. Come back after you guys practice more. He waved his hand and said, just soak the part of your body that got punched with hot water and the numbness will go away. Okay. The three of them replied individually. Although they didn't pass the test, they were a bit excited after learning a lot of industry secrets that outsiders did not know. It was Garen's first time hearing this information about the martial arts world, but he felt it was very similar to the martial arts world on Earth. He pretended to be excited by this knowledge, as he thought about his current situation, and started to walk away. Looks like I have to become one of the two types of disciple this man talked about in order to get the core teachings. I have no hope of becoming the first type, but the second type is possible. The difficulty level is just a bit high. Garen thought to himself. Hey, young man named Garen, wait a second. He heard the examiner shout. Garen was surprised, but he turned around instantly. What do you need? He asked the man with the mustache, who was walking towards him, perplexedly. You passed, why are you walking away? The man with the mustache was also confused. My scored passed. Garen was shocked. Yeah, you are only 16, your requirements are different compared to theirs. Couldn't you tell that they are adults? The man with mustache smiled and said, you are the only disciple who passed the test these past few years. Which branch are you from? Who is your instructor? When Garen quickly realized what was going on, he was delighted. I'm from the Shenging Academy branch, my instructors are Sharmila and Luo Ya. Your body is quite strong. The man with mustache squeezed Garen's shoulders. After some training, you are already about rank 4 or 5. You are fine even after taking 2 punches from me, especially the second punch. Yet you have fully recovered already. From the data that I read, you were still thin last month, but you grew a lot. Garen on the other hand just smiled, he didn't know how to explain everything. Okay. Kid, you have a good foundation. Let's go, come with me and meet your senior brothers and sisters. I didn't expect that I would accept another disciple in my 50s. The man rubbed his mustache and said with a smile. Accepting disciple. Garen was surprised. Are you the dojo master Fei Baiyun? He thought the man was only a regular examiner. Why? I don't look like him, the man with mustache said with a semi-smile on his face. No. You just look too young. You look like you are in your 40s and I heard that the dojo master is in his 50s, Garen quickly spilled out the truth of what he was thinking. You little punk. Dojo Master Fei Baiyun rubbed Garen's hair and felt speechless. I have nothing to do at this age, so I decided to come to the dojo and test disciples with the hope to find some disciples with high potential. Surprisingly, I actually found a few in the last dozen years. They are your senior brothers and sisters. Also, you were trying to hide your full strength earlier. There is no need to hide your tiny amount of strength. You are not at that level yet. When you meet your senior brothers and sisters, don't do that or it would only make them laugh, especially your senior sister. For the purpose of practice, she has beaten a dozen full-grown white bears to death. The mustached man laughed. White bear? Garen was defeated by this information. He had only read about this creature in books. A white bear was about a man's height when it stood up, and its rough skin was very thick. This skin could not even be penetrated by a bullet from afar, and could only be pierced at close range. It had about a ton, or 2,000 pounds, of strength. The senior sister that he hadn't met yet was able to beat a dozen white bears to death. It was unimaginable. Of course it's not like what you think. They didn't attack her at the same time. She only fought one bear at a time. The white bear isn't very fast, so if you could dodge its attack, you could win easily by counterattacking. However, none of your dodges can fail or else you could be killed. Only under this life-threatening pressure is your senior sister able to improve quickly, the man with the mustache said. With deep feelings. Let's go. I will introduce you to them. I know about your family background as well. You don't have to host a fancy ceremony or anything. I will invite some of my friends in the industry to come as witnesses for a simple acceptance ceremony. The dojo will pay for all your training-related expenses so your family doesn't have to worry about the cost. After your parents witness the ceremony, you will officially become my formal disciple. Okay, Master. Garen nodded seriously. Although he knew that he could reach this formal disciple level, he didn't expect it to happen so fast. Life in the true martial arts world of this era was about to slowly unfold for him. Chapter 23, The Core 1. Chapter 23, The Core 1. This will be the first time that I can actually enter the real martial arts circle. Garen was excited. After all, he loved martial arts when he was on Earth, but didn't have the opportunity to train and learn when he was young. Now, with this opportunity as the beginning, his lifelong most cherished dream was about to be realized. The only thing a bit strange is that some people have names similar to Chinese names, like the name Fei Baiyun. It sounds like a Chinese name. He even seems like a grandmaster of combat, who went to Western countries to teach martial arts. Garen followed Fei Baiyun as they walked under the eaves of the roof. Garen couldn't hold the thoughts in his mind any longer, so he asked, Master, you're not of the Confederation, right? Fei Baiyun nodded as he smiled. You can tell. Yeah, my name is pretty different from the names here at Yalu Confederation. I wasn't born in the Yalu Confederation, I'm from a huge empire at the east. East? Like from Republic of the Tulip? Garen asked. No, it's a place very far away, very far that not even planes can get there. Only huge ships can. The smile on Fei Baiyun's face slowly disappeared, only to be replaced with a tinge of sorrow. We were only able to reach this place because we were very lucky. I can't even return now. Enough of this, we are almost there. Be careful not to get hazed by your senior brothers and sisters, he said. Oh, okay. Garen answered. However, he was still thinking of the modern China back on Earth. The two of them walked into the lounge. and started heading up the side stairs to the second floor. Garin saw the two disciples who had participated in the test with him in the lounge talking with a blonde man. The black-haired girl turned around and looked at Garin, traces of envy apparent on her eyes. The other strapping man shrugged his shoulders and said, "Don't feel envious. If you have time to envy someone, you are better off training more and then fighting for your entrance qualifications next time. We are all getting older. There's no chance." The girl shook her head and said, "This is the last time that I'll be here. My parents are sending me abroad to Switzerland to study business management. The only time I can come to the dojo would be during long breaks. This little kid must have passed the test. What's his name again? I just saw it moments ago. I think he wrote Garin on the data sheet." The strapping man also turned around to look at Garin. All right. People like us can never devote 100% of our time and energy into training. We are still able to live how we want to live at present, but when we get older, we'll have to accept the arrangements from our families. Therefore, not qualifying could be considered as something good. We won't regret this after all. A helpless expression popped on the blonde man's face as he said, "I'm really envious of Senior Sister Rosetta." The three of them fell into silence for a moment as they heard the name Rosetta. Garin vaguely heard their conversation and looked at them. He just saw the black-haired girl raising her fist at him, cheering him on. He nodded back as he smiled and gestured an OK sign back. He then quickly followed Fei Baiyun to the second floor. The second floor was a wide, open hall. A layer of dark brown carpet was laid on the ground, and a huge grey circle was drawn at the center of hall. On the four corners were a couple of red wooden cylinders that supported the roof. What was strange was that there wasn't a column at the center of the room to support the roof. The ceiling of the hall looked like two slanted flat boards leaning against each other such that it looked firm and aesthetically pleasing. There was a huge black and white oil painting at the end of the hall. Garin saw it clearly as he was walking up the stairs. The painting was of a huge white ship sailing across the waves and tides in the ocean. Under the oil painting were a few tables and chairs made of redwood. Two people in black uniforms were chatting there, one of them was standing while the other was sitting on a chair. The one standing was a girl that looked in her 20s. Her dark brown hair was tied into a ponytail, which was draped over her shoulder. She was wearing a pair of tight black shorts and a camisole under a vest, her fair-skinned, slender arms and thighs fully exposed. What was intriguing was her big chest under the camisole. Its size made it seem as though the zipper of her vest would break anytime. The girl leaned against the wall. From afar, Garin could see her facial features that made her look very valiant. Her lips most especially. The way she spoke was concise and persuasive. She was definitely someone who was straightforward and powerful. The one who was standing was a white-haired man. He was also in his 20s, but he looked ordinary and had a fatigued countenance. He was the kind of person whom you couldn't easily recognize on the street. However, his arms were quite lengthy to the extent that, when he was seated, his hands could effortlessly touch the ground. It gave people a feeling of incongruence. Both of them stood straight and walked toward the stairs, as they saw Fei Baiyun taking someone up here. "Master, you found someone after the test today." The brown-haired girl was surprised, her curiosity evident as she observed Garin carefully up and down. "I finally found someone with high potential. His foundation and work ethics are both above average. I will stop taking disciples after this. Last one." Fei Baiyun laughed as he sat down on a chair. "His name is Garin. He will be your junior brother from now on. Last one." He. Finally someone who is younger than me. The white-haired man said with a villainous smile on his face, I've been waiting for this day for so long. All the senior brothers and sisters had been bullying me whenever they got bored, and I wasn't even allowed to fight back. Now it's finally my turn. Look at you. Do you think you are getting bullied just because you are the youngest? The brown-haired girl knocked him on the head. Half angrily. All right. Introduce yourselves. All four of you will be helping and relying on each other from now on. I won't be taking any more disciples in the future after all. Fei Baiyun smiled and said with his eyes half squinted. The brown-haired girl nodded and said, I will go first. She looked at Garin who was standing obediently at the side and said, My name is Rosetta, the first disciple of the Master. I will be your senior sister from now on. The white-haired man put away his ridiculous smile and said, I'm your second brother Joshua. Second brother? Screw you. A tough, gigantic, towering man quickly rushed up the stairs. His voice was as deep as thunder, and he had a white tiger tattooed on his upper body. Hey, little Josh, since when did you become the second brother here? Why haven't I heard of it? Eh? Isn't this our strong, handsome, invincible and charming second brother Farak? Joshua shivered as he hid behind his senior sister. I said third brother. You must have misheard it. Misheard? He. A timid expression appeared on Joshua's face, as if he was a mouse who had just met a cat. The towering Farak ignored Joshua. He walked up to Fei Baiyun and clenched his fists to salute. Master, I heard that you just took in a junior brother. I came here just to meet and welcome him. Come, let's all sit down. Fei Baiyun was most proud of his second disciple Farak. Farak was only in his 20s, and yet he was already at level 3 in terms of the White Cloud secret arts. His explosive fist arts were also at level 2. With the Herculean strength that he was born with, his combat ability was off the charts. Farak, at this point, wasn't weaker than Fei Baiyun when he was at this age. Although Farak still couldn't beat his disciple Rosetta, Farak's strong physique and his direct fist-to-fist combat style was the most compatible with everything that White Cloud Dojo was teaching, and it was the style that Fei Baiyun really favored. Your junior brother just became my disciple, so he hasn't learnt anything yet. You guys should bully him less. Fei Baiyun stretched his neck as he said with a smile, after a year or two, he will be in a much better shape. Nothing wrong with that. Junior brother, just come and ask me if you don't understand anything. I have a lot of experience in evasive maneuvers. Rosetta smiled with her arms crossed in front of her chest. I specialize in heavy punches. You can come and ask me if you don't understand anything in terms of explosive strength. Farak patted Garin's shoulder. And me, your third brother. If you need any help, just come and find me at Huaishan. But if you are at any other place, then I can't do anything about it. He. Now, we are all brothers and sisters, so there will be more opportunities to get to know each other in the future. How about we go and celebrate now? The conversations were very intimate. Although Garin was the weakest of them, none of his senior brothers or sister looked down on him. All of them were the disciples of the Master, and were so intimate that they looked like a family. Bam! Bam! Garin got patted by the powerful palms. He was fortunate enough to have achieved the elementary level on the explosive fist arts. Otherwise, his body might not be able to take the full brunt of these pats on the shoulders. Let's go to Worcester Restaurant, they have some great seafood. The dishes there all taste amazing. Rosetta suggested. I will pass this time. You young people are able to have more fun together without me. Fei Baiyun smiled as he shook his head. I have some other plans already. I have to meet up with an old friend. Okay then. We will just hang out with ourselves tonight. We'll treat Master some other time. Rosetta waved her hand as she said with the temperament of a senior sister, let's go test junior brother's foundation. I like it. The third brother Joshua said, as he peeked at Garin with malicious intent. Don't bully the junior brother. The towering Farak smacked his palm on Joshua's head and rubbed his hair. He just became Master's disciple. He is not there yet. Garin stood on the side and watched his senior brothers and sister messing around until Fei Baiyun stopped them. He was smiling the whole time. Okay, who is first? Make sure you don't use your full strength. I will go first. Joshua was excited. Although he was in his 20s, he was still acting like a kid. He stretched his black uniform and walked to the center of the hall. He then lowered his right palm and gestured Garin to come. Although Garin wasn't too sure what it meant, he knew that this was some kind of test to reveal his full strength, or it could be to see where he ranked among the four of them. The most important reason of all, however, was probably to show him how strong his senior brothers and sister were, so as to properly establish their positions as his seniors. In a dojo, seniority was established by fighting, not talking. Garin walked up to the center of the hall and faced third brother Joshua. He put on a simple boxing defense pose. He didn't know anything about proper combat, so he could only use this most basic boxing stance which could help him exert his full power. Joshua smiled, letting Garin see all of his white teeth. Be careful, I'm attacking. As soon as Joshua finished the sentence, he leapt forward and aimed his right palm at Garin's right elbow. This attack was so fast that it created a whoosh sound. This strike was average in terms of speed and power in an outsider's view. It looked like a simple greeting that friends would give each other. But it was different in Garin's eyes. Although this palm strike from Joshua wasn't fast, it gave him a flexible and agile feeling. Garin's instinct told him that if he tried to dodge this strike would quickly change trajectories and follow his body tightly. From the wind that this palm strike generated, Garin felt that the strength in this strike wasn't weak at all. Many thoughts went through Garin's mind, but he didn't overthink the situation. He took this strike head-on, but he also suppressed a part of his strength, just like what he did during the test with Fei Baiyun. He only exerted about 140 pounds of force. At the same time, he swung his arm from the side and slapped at Joshua's approaching palm. Pia. A. Junior brother's reaction is very quick. Senior sister Rosetta was surprised as she suddenly stood up from her chair. Although Joshua's speed isn't that fast, most people in our White Cloud dojo couldn't really spot his attacks clearly. I didn't expect junior brother to react this fast and block the attack before it reached him. His vision and body reaction are far superior than average disciples. Of course, Master Fei Baiyun laughed proudly. This is where his talent lies, and he is sly enough to hide some of his strength. White Cloud Secret Arts is the technique that we practice at White Cloud Dojo. Although it could result in a substantial strength increase, speed and reaction times would be negatively affected. Therefore, the key reason why I took your junior brother in is because of his talent and potential in speed and reaction time. This way, his natural abilities will cover up the shortcomings of White Cloud Secret Arts. Master, you are right. Disciples from our White Cloud dojo have always lost in speed compared with other dojos. Rosetta calmed down and agreed with Fei Baiyun. In combat, after Garin blocked the first palm strike, he kept unconsciously trying to block and parry the palm strikes coming from all angles. These strikes struck his body and made continuous hard slapping sounds. Every time a palm landed on Garen's body, he would feel a numbing sensation of weakness dispersing into his body. Chapter 24, The Core, 2. Chapter 24, The Core, 2. His agility, eye speed, and physical reaction were all fast enough to match the fist's speed. However, he usually could only block the first punch before the change in attack method left him defenseless. After being whacked more than 10 times, Garen staggered a few steps backward. To be beaten up repeatedly without a chance to counterattack made him very depressed. When he finally stabilized his body, he hastily pushed forward with his palm. There was no technique involved with what he was doing. It was a simple and plain strike in the form of a palm. It received the powerful palm from Joshua head-on. Bang! The two palms clashed together with great force. Garen turned his foot and fell back more than 10 steps. His face turned white and, for a moment, he could not catch his breath. All he felt was a surge of heat that spun around continuously in his chest. This heat was trapped inside and could not leave his body. The middle of his right palm was boiling hot and as red as a lobster. Looking up, he saw third senior brother Joshua walking over with a worried look. "Are you okay, junior brother? Just now I got lost in the moment and forgot you were underage. I used a little bit too much power." "It's okay." Garen had felt third senior brother restrain his strength when he realized something was wrong. As a result, Garen was not wounded at all. Garen lifted his right arm. "My blood is just a little congested." Just now, he estimated that third senior brother's palm strength definitely exceeded 180 pounds. Looking at Joshua, Garen was sure that was not even Joshua's limit. Joshua was also definitely a freak, who could surpass 200 pounds. Joshua's strength is around 300 pounds, the weakest one out of all of us. My strength is about 350 pounds. Your second senior brother is the strongest. He was tested 2 days ago, and his strength is above 450 pounds. Elder senior sister Rosetta walked over. She grabbed Garen's arm and massaged it slowly. Martial arts does not comply with the idea that the stronger you are, the more likely you are to win. Second senior brother Frank rubbed his chin. Rosetta, you have already surpassed stage E of training. I am still stuck at amateur stage 9. You are lacking in agility. Having only strength is not necessarily a good thing. It slows you down because you are so heavy. Rosetta pinched Frank's arm with a smile on her face. Look at all the fat on your body. When we hang out tonight, we will have to order extra meat just for you. That's because I'm consuming a lot of energy now, Frank shrugged helplessly. Next, let me test the extent of our junior brother's skills. At the same time, we can roughly evaluate the highest stage our junior brother can achieve. Sounds good. After all, you are one of the judges in our city that determines the amateur martial arts placements, Rosetta agreed while nodding. Frank, nicknamed Eiffel Tower because he was 2 meters tall, stood in front of Garen and forcefully pushed Joshua away. Joshua speechlessly ran to the side and sat down to watch the battle. Junior brother, you better beat him up good. Joshua waved his fist and softly encouraged. Senior brother, you got our roles mixed up. Garen smiled bitterly. Everyone in the group softly laughed. Please. Frank stood barefoot on the ground. He casually swung his arm and released a wave of wind that made a mess of Garen's hair. Despite a distance of 4 meters between them, Garen knew that these senior siblings were fully grown adults. Not only had their strength reached the usual limit, but the synergy between the explosive fist arts and other techniques raised their peak strength far beyond the standard maximum value. After all, the standard value was set based on an average adult male. Therefore, everyone here was much stronger than him. At times like this, not displaying any personality defects or bad habits was more than enough. Winning was simply impossible for Garin. Comprehending this, he inhaled deeply. He expanded his chest and held his breath. Sidestep. Straight punch. Bang. The fist hit Frank's body heavily. It felt like the punch landed on a rubber car tire that was sturdy but elastic. The powerful rebound caused Garin to retreat 4 to 5 steps. Feeling this shocking resistance, Garin was aghast. Your guess is correct. The technique I practice is the mammoth secret technique, Frank replied with a smile. The explosive fist technique is a basic technique in our dojo. It is an iconic technique that enhances the user's explosive power. Of course, it also makes the skin more durable. The real secret method of our dojo is the mammoth secret technique. This is a secret technique that we do not pass down publicly. A secret technique? Yes, every dojo has exclusive martial arts skills called secret techniques that they selectively teach. In White Cloud Dojo, the explosive fist technique cannot be considered strong because most dojos have similar techniques. However, the mammoth secret technique is different. It is something unique that only we have and other dojos don't. This technique allows the user to defend himself while enhancing muscle strength, Frank explained patiently. Now I will use 1/10 of my power to attack you. You should try to block me. All right. Garin readied himself in a guarding position as he concentrated fully on the opponent. All the strength in his body converged. He knew that even if he unleashed all his strength in front of his second senior brother, he was considered to be the same level as a bean sprout. He could easily be destroyed with one wave of his senior brother's hand. However, during these times, he especially needed to be careful and not expose his secret. No matter how much talent one has, it was impossible to perfect the White Cloud secret method, an elementary explosive fist technique within a month. To successfully do so was beyond the capabilities of a genius. Only a freak or a monster could achieve that. The moment someone dug deep into the issue, they could find out about his secret abilities. Frank stretched out his right arm and grabbed Garin's right shoulder with his big hand. Like a handheld folding fan that was blasted down by a strong gust of wind, Frank pushed down. The two of them stood together. One was unmistakably gigantic, the other was extremely petite. It was like an adult capturing a kid. The speed of the palm was not that fast, but the way it moved seemed inescapable. The giant hand was quivering non-stop, as if at any time it could swing in any direction it wanted. This feeling of uncertainty clouded Garin's judgment, and he had no idea which direction to dodge if he wanted to evade. Helplessly, he mustered 140 pounds of strength and met the palm with resolution. After he struck, Garin felt like he hit a metal plate. The throbbing from the collision greatly pained his hand. A strange wave of power pressed down from the top of Frank's hand. It wasn't exactly heavy, however, as soon as Frank's palm contacted with Garin's, a forceful shivering and numbness extended down Garin's arm. Subconsciously, to resist this numbness, Garin unleashed all his strength and ruthlessly pushed forward with 200 pounds worth of strength. The result was the same. Flopping, he fell on his butt to the ground. His entire body was numb and he had no strength left in his body. Frank nodded in approval and retracted his hand. Your physique is not bad. If you learn some fundamental combat arts and do not conceal a part of your strength, then achieving amateur Stage 6 is no problem. Really? Garen low-key celebrated. Stage 5 amateurs can earn 5 to 6,000 monthly if employed. He then bitterly smiled. He thought that he could battle equally with these senior disciples if he used all of his strength. However, the result was all the same. Because of his weak abilities. Only 5 to 6,000 could make you this happy. Are you in need of money? Fei Baiyun walked over and slapped the top of Garen's head. I have something I want to buy. Garen then suddenly remembered that the emblem was gone. The happiness he felt died down. Before your senior disciples, you dare to hide your real strength. Did you know that your second senior brother was born with monstrous strength before he was introduced to martial arts? At age 15, he had 200 pounds of strength, a height of 1.9 m, and doubled your elder senior sister in size. So you were born with more strength than a regular person, what's there to hide? Elder senior sister. Rosetta teased. Garen was speechless. As long as nobody found out about his unusual level in the explosive fist technique and the secret method, he was okay. Behind him a few people dragged out chairs and sat down. The three senior disciples began to discuss the details of the recent practice. Just now, elder senior sister advised on aiming only to hit the vitals of the opponent using speed and explosive force. Hitting the fatal areas of the opponent was the easiest and cleanest way to win a battle. Therefore, she taught Garen that in order to kill with one attack, he must pay attention, dodge, and respond to the opponent's explosive power. It would most effective for him to concentrate all his time and energy on improving only one area. Second senior brother advocated for overall strength. He lectured Garen to exercise his whole body because if he was able to fully improve physically, he could face any situation with ease. Third senior brother believed in survival before anything else. If one cannot beat the opponent, one should run. He believed that practicing martial arts just to strengthen the physique was enough, therefore there was no point in fighting to the point of injury or death. It would be unpleasant to ruin relationships between people, and enemies would only accumulate if one always fought every battle to the end. Based on his beliefs, the more friends the better, since everyone would live in harmony that way. Third senior brother's beliefs were unanimously despised by everyone else. Elder senior sister and second senior brother's debate over who was right became more and more heated. In the end, they could not reach a consensus and ended up battling it out physically. After a few rounds that lasted for more than 10 minutes, second senior brother was eventually defeated, though he did not admit defeat. It was obvious that his strength exploded too quickly, and he was very afraid of hurting elder senior sister. Because of his thick skin and fat, he was instead punched repeatedly, losing the battle. Garen watched from the side with cold sweat spilling out of his pores. Only when these senior disciples battled each other did he realize their true strength. He was terrified that he would be helplessly slaughtered in seconds the moment he went against any of them. Elder senior sister was the strongest, yet still was only at stage E, so it was difficult to imagine what higher staged seniors could do. All right, everyone stop, Fei Baiyun announced while loudly clapping. He looked at Garen and said, don't think too much. The reality is that the higher you go, the harder it is to step into the next stage. Those above the E stage usually have a better understanding of the laws behind these techniques. Those big dojos are all the same. Strength like your second senior brothers can be placed at the medium to upper class anywhere. Those who achieve higher stages are usually stronger when it comes to special secret methods. For example, I know about a type of secret method that could instantly accelerate and achieve unmatchable speed for the user. Combine that ability with a sharp weapon and a high-quality killer secret technique is created. Different techniques have different effects based on different environments and the influences around them. In our White Cloud dojo, we were enlightened with the mammoth secret technique from the inspiration of the mammoth. Garen knew that his real abilities were nothing before his master and his senior brothers and sister. Everyone here was considered to be great figures within the martial arts community. Although Garen did not know how they would fare in real battles, regular people could not kill his seniors even if they had guns, unless they attacked vital areas. Fortunately, his master and senior disciples did not even consider the fact that he had already advanced the White Cloud secret arts to the second stage. If he could reach stage 3, then he could improve his strength attribute again. None of this was actually important. From the senior disciples' conversations, Garen learned that the White Cloud secret arts was used to enhance strength. With every increase in level, it could forcefully improve the strength attribute. However, the end result was already determined at birth. The higher a person's natural talent was, the greater the increase in strength, and the stronger the total strength. Second senior brother was a perfect example of this. He was born strong and trained the White Cloud secret arts to a high level. Coupled with the mammoth secret technique, his strength grew to a frighteningly powerful level. The key point was that Garen's strength attribute could be improved infinitely by his special ability. Therefore, he could reach the same level as his second senior brother despite his lack of natural talent. Compared to elder senior sister's style of hitting the vital points of the opponent, Garen was leaning more toward second senior brother's straightforward style of being holistically trained. With this method, there would be no vital weakness. No matter how critical the situation becomes, his fighting style could face it easily and effectively. Even now, Garen's heart was actually still filled with fear and insecurity toward this world. These emotions, along with his crazy passion for martial arts, made him more than willing to devote all his energy into training. Part 3 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe, so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.